Sam, defend your team, because they haven't won.
Self saying it's another 1 hour episode.
Oh yeah.
Spike defused.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Press 4 to Defuse. I am so happy that we've got this show to go. It's going to start out with just Sam and I talking about a little bit of the news, but then very shortly we are going to have Mr. mCe himself hopping on in. That's right, we got Matthew Elmore here to hop in, talk to us a little bit about his time in Gen.G, and talk through some of the VCT stuff that we've got going on. Sam, how are you feeling today?
I feel amazing. I got my hair done, so I'm back in purple. And
so purple.
I no longer have to, it is so purple, and I no longer have to defend my team because they're doing really freaking well. So I'm in a pretty good mood today.
And the gods of South African internet are being kind to you today.
Oh,
so hopefully we won't have any issues
Don't
in
jinx
that
it, please.
regard. Yeah, you know, you gotta get interesting with it. We are going to talk about some of the headlines that are going on here just while we wait for Matt to be available. He's being so kind to us on coming on a very tight timeline to make this show to come on in and chat with us all. So very excited about that. But let's go ahead and hop into it. Let's hop in and run it back. We're going to talk about some of the things that happened over the last week. Actually, some of the stuff that's happened over the last 2 weeks since we didn't wind up having a show last week. First up, Vanity to Cloud9 Blue. That's confirmed. It was rumored. Now they've actually got him. They've signed him. Vanity is in. The ashes of chaos are being reforged into, it's like Narsil. I posted a meme. Is Narsil being reforged into Anduril, the Flame of the West, for any Tolkien nerds out there. I feel like that's what Cloud9 is doing with Chaos Esports Club's old CS team in Valorant. How do you feel about this move, Sam?
I think that it's a phenomenal pickup for Cloud9. I'm really feeling sorry for version 1 and all of this because I feel like they just cannot catch a break. Losing a player for Iceland, then losing a player for Stage 1. Now they've just lost Vanity, who, if I'm not mistaken, is their IGL. So a really big brainchild in the team that has helped those cogs turn. It's really sad for V1, but it's a great pickup for Cloud9. And I think it's something that they definitely need. They have struggled. Again, we talk about this so often with C9. They're just one of those teams that every time they make a pickup, we're like, ooh, this could be good, but then it's not. So hopefully this could be good.
I think this is going to be really good. To be entirely honest, I think version 1 was Vanity's team. I think that a huge amount of what made them successful in terms of adapting metas on the fly, pulling out surprise comps in Reykjavik and things like that, that's Vanity's fingerprints all over it, right? He's a guy who's supremely confident in himself, he's very smart, he's very clever, he's a little bit of a troll on the interwebs, and if you meet him in person, but he is genuinely such a smart dude. And just clearly very successful as an IGL across multiple titles. So he's someone who played competitive COD way back in the day, then had a good career in CS, and is now moving over to Cloud9 in Valorant. I'm so excited to see Vanity in this C9 team. I think that he is going to be able to have a massive impact in what they come out as in their next iteration, right? Which we will see in the Summer Champs, by the way. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show, but they are in the Summer Champs, and I'm very excited to see that take place. Yeah, you're right. It sucks for version 1. It sucks real bad for version 1. I saw an article, I think it was on the Nerd Shooter Upcomer, talking about how they're taking their time. Apparently they tried to get Ye to replace Vanity, couldn't do that, couldn't make that work. So they're gonna really put resources into finding a real slugger to replace Vanity, which makes sense. But I'm excited for this one. Moving on.
Well, wait.
Whoa,
One
not
question
moving on.
about this, though.
Hit me with it.
No, just yet. Okay. So now, obviously, my version 1 cat ears are like super limited edition, right? But C9 cat ears win. All right. I need some
That
blue cat ears to go with my purple ones.
you're just gonna start expanding the collection. Every org the Vanity ever
Yeah.
joins in his courier gets cat ears going.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
at this point, he should just release some individual merch of cat ears with Vanity branded
Yes.
stuff,
I
like
would
you'll see
buy
some
that.
players do.
Yeah.
Uh, that's Oh, we just got word from our producer that there was
Ooh.
actually a report that went live. Literally, I saw it as we were on the countdown screen, and Ed, who's producing today, is wonderful and actually managed to get it on in.
Shout out
So
Ed.
this is X Noble are joining TSM Academy, which is super exciting. This, let's see. George tweeted this a minute ago.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 minutes ago. So this is
News.
very exciting. TSM Academy is going to be a thing. That X Noble roster is joining them, and Decop is joining as well. So that's pretty funky. What do you make of that, Sam?
So Decop replacing Levi is actually massive first and foremost because I was a huge Levi fan. This to me is super surprising. Now don't get me wrong, I've been a Decop fan since his Apex days. So like I can see the thought process, but at the same time, really? My other question is, so obviously there are rules around orgs not being able to participate or have more than one team participating in tournaments. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was the same thing that they had with T1. T1 couldn't have their career roster anymore. Or was it C9? C9.
C9. C9. Yeah.
But now TSM are going to have an academy team. So are X Noble cool with this? They now cannot compete in VCT if I've understood that correctly.
Yeah, I think that is how it works. I think that my understanding of Riot's conflict of interest when it comes to this, because they're not the first team to do an academy team, right? For T1 has an academy team, an academy roster. But I do think the understanding is that you can't compete in any tournament that main TSM is competing in, which is presumably VCT. I guess X Noble are confident enough that there will be enough going on with like the Nerd Street events and maybe anything else that comes through that it's worthwhile to have this name brand. Second, I went from A to second because I'm the worst. But B, uh, it's TSM, like that name brand is just sexy enough that you
Yeah.
want to put yourself in a position to be the next player who's pulled up to the TSM main roster, like Levi was. So you want to put yourself in that position, and we know that like Hayes has talked about it before, where he thinks all of the older players are eventually going to be replaced by young cracked out aimers. So all these guys want to be that next young cracked out aimer who gets pulled up to the TSM main roster, maybe to replace Hayes, as he said before. So I think that the risk of not being able to compete in VCT is worth the opportunity of being attached to an organization like TSM. And obviously, it depends on, I don't know what their salaries are or what TSM is paying an academy roster, but you got to imagine the opportunities are pretty frisky. Yeah. Again, shout out to Ed for getting this into the sequence right away. That's pretty awesome. Let's check out the next one. We got some more roster moves. These are people being removed. We got Profi out of Complexity. They're reportedly trialing Brock. I haven't watched a lot of Complexity lately because they have not done well in VCTs.
Yeah.
What do you make of this?
I mean, you said it. So they've obviously been competing in the Summer Champs, and they've been doing all right there. But they when you think Summer Champs, the names that come to mind, Complexity isn't generally one of them. You've got like your Renegades, your Sonics, your YFP, but Complexity not really up there. And so I also haven't seen a ton of them recently, but I will say that just based off of results alone, changes needed to be made. That's undeniable. And I'm not even sure if this is going to be the only change we see made, because I don't think that any org is really happy with like, oh, we're really great in the tier 2 scene, like every org wants to be up there. They want to be one of the best and counted with the Sentinels and the 100 Thieves and the FaZe clans and so on. So I kind of expect some more changes to come through as we continue, moving towards next year, because there's a lot of downtime between now and then.
Yeah, Complexity is one of those organizations as well, where it's not just like even like any org obviously wants to be competing at the top level, but this is Complexity, right? Like they've got the money, they've got the backing, they've got the prestige of being a long-time esports org, they've got financial backing from the Dallas Cowboys. Like there is money involved in Complexity Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it is disappointing, I'm sure, for all of them that they've sort of been an afterthought in the Valorant space for the time being. Now, I say that I will freely admit my bias of I'm a huge AGM fan of Mike as a person. He's a great dude.
Same.
I love his skills and what he brings to the table. I've always been a fan of AGM, but I know that he's not happy with the results that they've had. I know that really no one involved with the team is happy with the results that they had. So I am kind of curious about what will continue to happen there. Yeah, I think that Pruffy actually acquitted himself fairly well from what I've seen of their team. So I am curious to see where he ends up as a name as well. Sliding on in, because I think we're about to get Mr. Matthew C. Elmore in here himself. There's one more piece of news that we got in the headlines, which is that Immortals have released Truo. Immortals, this iteration of the roster, this iteration of the farm team has not quite been as bountiful as they're used to. Obviously, they did not do well in this round of the VCT. They were not really in contention. So how do we feel about this move?
I feel like, wasn't this a relatively recent pickup? Like, not super new, but yeah. So again, Immortals didn't get the results that they wanted. They had like a really great upswing, and then they kind of petered out for a little bit. I guess that the change they made didn't work out. I mean, usually you'll see, so an example from EU is the Vodafone Giants were playing with David P for quite some time, and they've only just like today announced that he's officially on the roster. He's playing with them in EMEA playoffs, but it hadn't been announced yet. And this has been something that I've seen quite often in EU that I don't see as often in NA. And it almost makes you wonder if they kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I can't speak specifically to what goes on in the team, but with this being such a new pickup and then instantly getting dropped so quickly, it's a little wild.
I think that a lot of what we've seen from Immortals is them scouting unknown talent, relatively unknown talent, or new talent, or fresh faces. And I think that the fact that they're willing to cut bait on players maybe speaks to that as well, where they see something when they're watching a player on film, or when they're watching VODs or talking to a player where they're like, we want to get this guy into the roster. Then you get them into the roster, and maybe they just don't mesh for one reason or another. Maybe they're not. Maybe the factors that you were looking for aren't actually there in the way that you thought. And so it's like, okay, well, move on. Now, maybe that can be too soon. Obviously, when a player moves up a tier level of competition, you do want to see them have time to get their feet out from under them, and the month that Truo has had isn't really enough time. But I find it difficult to levy too much criticism at the Immortal scouting team based on what they've been able to do in the past. So I think obviously we'll see if Truo winds up blowing up somewhere and makes them look like fools. But I'm not surprised that they want to get another face in there to check that one out. And now I think we've got Matt standing by. I think we have mCe ready to go. Am I correct? Do we have mCe standing by? Do we? Oh my goodness, there he is. Oh, look at that beautiful face. How you doing today, Matt? Thank you very much for making it here. I know the schedule was difficult for you, but thank you so much for coming in. Nice shirt you were in there.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Okay, I will go ahead and introduce you. For anyone who's not aware, for anyone who's in this who wasn't just here to see mCe, this is Matthew C. Elmore. He was, up until the beginning of last week, the head coach of Gen.G. He has an extensive background coaching, competing, generally being involved in CS in the North American scene. He is a very smart dude, and we're very happy to have you here to talk to us.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
So let's get into it. Let's just get into the interview. There's a lot that we want to know. Obviously, really appreciate you coming on to do this interview. So let's just get into the meat of it, which is you've just been released as the head coach of Gen.G. Obviously, that is very fresh. But what was your read on the team? I know you weren't expecting. My understanding is that you weren't expecting to be released. What was your read on the team? Were you aware that this is a possibility? What was going on?
I wasn't really. I kind of got caught off guard by it. Obviously, when you don't win or whatever, there's always pressure, and things like that that is part of being a competitor or in a professional setting. But I wasn't really aware of it. I had kind of laid a groundwork of what I thought needed to be done in order to make the team competitive, take it to the next level. And I thought we were pretty much in agreement on that. But heading into the tournament and whatever, I thought we were in a really good spot in terms of our practice had been doing really, really well. We had a player slumping a little bit and was struggling a bit, but I guess I just misplaced faith in one of the guys that we ended up obviously losing to TSM, and we choked that match. There's no way around it, pretty hard. And then we went up against Rise Nation, and we just flat out didn't show up to play that day. Like, first map, they just blew us out of the water. They're a big time momentum team. And, midway through the second map, I took a timeout and just started basically yelling at people that I was like, guys, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but, if we want to do anything and all you guys want to keep playing on this team and for this org, you need to, open your fucking games right now. And we started to make the comeback. Unfortunately lost, 2 back-to-back clutches down the stretch. That was, heartbreaking, and we got knocked out. And, that's it at that point. The first time around we played Sentinels and Envy, which are better teams than we were. We can compete with them, obviously, and we showed it, but, those are matches that you don't always expect to win, you hope to win. And then we just were a disappointment. Players didn't show up, and we choked. So.
That's a very frank assessment. Thanks. But I guess diving into that a little bit more, right? The specific VCT run, that TSM game must have been a heartbreaker. Second map was what, overtime?
It was, I believe, we had the lead. We won the pistol. What was it? I forget the half, but we had a lead. We got eco'd. After we went pistol, we won that round. We closed the game 13-5, 13-6, 13-7, somewhere in there. But, whether, our pathing was bad or what happened, we got outshot. We lose that eco, let them back in the game. And, of course, against any of these teams, you're only allowed to make so many mistakes, and we made too many.
All right. So
Jeez.
Going through that as well, going back to the sort of the start of your time at Gen.G, you started Gen.G right at the beginning of February. So you've kind of had a 6-month run with the team, half a year with the team. Starting about the beginning of the team, I know when you came in, there was a lot that you were really excited about getting involved in Valorant. Obviously, you were coming over from CS, where you had a background coaching the Chaos team that we were just talking about with the Cloud9 news. This team had existed, though, pretty much since the beginning of Valorant, right? They'd been competing as the French Canadians with the majority of the team. They signed to Gen.G as part of that core, and then that core was together for a long time. So I guess one of my questions is it challenging coming in when you're supposed to be the head coach, when you are the head coach, and you're taking on the leadership in a team that's sort of been together that long? Is that a particular challenge?
I came in at a really weird time because, Effie's was gone. They had just cut PL1 a couple months before, and they brought in Kusta and Sean, obviously. So that core was kind of broken up a little bit by the time I came in, so I didn't really get that feel. We had Danny, Huen, we had Mikhail, and we had GMD were the guys that were left. And attitude-wise and everything, those guys were great. The team didn't really feel like a team at that time, though. It's kind of hard to explain, but it just didn't feel like a team atmosphere for whatever reason. People weren't joking with each other, and I came from Chaos, and we were absolute fucking clowns all the time. If you've watched our comm videos and I've come from teams even dating back to Soar and Rogue and whatever that always felt like friends on those teams a lot of the time. So coming into Gen.G at the start was a lot different for me. That at times it felt like people weren't even having fun. It was just a really weird situation. And when I came in at the beginning, they were not good. They didn't look good when I first came in. They'd been struggling with a lot of stuff, and we had a long road ahead of us from the start.
Now, how did you sort of approach that? Right, if there's not that team atmosphere, is that a priority to sort of create a sense of camaraderie outside of the server?
It was such an odd, they didn't not like each other, but we'd be there and we'd be 5 minutes before we were supposed to be back for like a practice or something, and just nobody's saying anything, nobody's talking. Like they would all just be like sitting there. I know they're there, they're watching YouTube videos or whatever, but it was just really bizarre. Obviously, the three French Canadians, best friends, and like Houston, it's kind of hard to get a read on a lot of the time. And then Sean is just like Sean's sense of humor is fantastic, but it's really dry and stuff like that. But as far as like the team, like you try to get them talking or whatnot, but I'm not the best at, your motivation or your emotions like that. I'm pretty well known to be, a guy that gets upset and yells at people to get things done. But I felt like more and more we started to get that way. But it was such an odd, preposition, and we had so much we needed to get put in place in terms of the groundwork, in my opinion, that was what I was focused on at the very beginning, was like, we need to be able to win games. We need to be able to do these things like right off the bat. So we had a lot of work we had to start on at the beginning.
I mean, talking about that work as well that was in the server, I remember talking to you at the time, and a huge focus for you, even after you guys started winning some of those early events and started placing much better. I remember, congratulating you after winning, you being like, "Oh yeah, we were still bad. Like we need to be better." And it seemed like a huge amount of the focus for you was just bringing what I would consider like FPS fundamentals in terms of spacing, trading, like running in like set pieces, but also like knowing how to default and things like that. Was that accurate? Do you like it felt like you really had to build a strat book from the ground up as a coach?
Not entirely fair.
Okay.
They had a lot of stuff in place that was good. I mean, obviously those guys have been a team since beta. Like literally, the game came out, those guys switched. They were known for being, innovative, and doing a lot of things before, people did things. So they had a lot of good set pieces, that, they did a good job. Like they had good things, but they had switched to somebody besides GMD calling, when I came in, and it wasn't working. It was really bad. And the GM actually and I, the first couple of days when I sat in, were just talking back and forth, not talking to the team as much. And he was just like, "Matt, I swear to God, they're not like they're better than this. They're not usually this bad, whatever." Because that first week was really rough. And you can ask any of the guys on the team or the GM, and they will be like, "Yeah, it was bad." So they had good pieces. Obviously, I'm known as being, a guy that has good set pieces. Like from CS, we were, excellent on that at SOAR, being an innovative person in terms of how to play maps differently and things like that, that even if it's not right, like I thought it was, so why not try it? And that was what was exciting for me about Valorant and the Gen.G guys, is like basic things I wanted to do that I was like, guys, I think this can be sick. Let's try to do it. And then we did those things. We started innovating on certain maps. On Icebox, we were one of the first teams that really worked mid to CT spawn and things like that on different splits, and we had some really neat stuff throughout, the time being there. But they had good stuff put in place. It was just picking and choosing pieces of those to, put our best foot forward and kind of updating those things or whatnot. So.
Now, the biggest individual achievement for this roster really was the third place finish at the Stage 1 Masters. That was a pretty huge finish. That was a really great achievement pretty early on in the tenure. What was the feeling? What was your feeling about the roster at that point?
I identified very early that we had a decent peak and really bad floors. That it's like we had players like Danny H1 and Mikhail, GMD, Sean, that these guys' peak is in, it's good. But if we weren't playing at the peak, then obviously that's where you see the upsets or things like that. Like if somebody's not having a great game, are we really a good team? And going into that Masters, everything just kind of clicked at the right time. People were doing well. The team was doing well. We went on a little run, and we were in a good spot. But I felt like we overperformed for that tournament. I think we could have beat a lot of the teams we beat again. And I truly to this day think that if we had got another day before we had to play FaZe and didn't have to go through the BO3 like from hell against Envy that went the distance, that we could have come into that match and shown a lot better than what we did. But that's part of the game. we had people that basically like we go from that match, they go eat a big meal, and then they just like hard crash into the FaZe game. And FaZe has always been one of those teams that has beat those guys before. But I was really confident moving into that match, and I think the guys were too. Our practice against those guys was much better than when we had started. But it was unfortunate. They came out, they got to watch what we had just done. They're arguably the better team as well. I'm not going to take away Corey and Baby Bay are phenomenal. Those guys are so good, and Marved obviously, and then Raucus and Zachary are just overlooked all the time. Like those guys are so solid, they do their jobs, and they never get anything. So this is my shout out to them because they are excellent pieces of that team. But we lose there, we come in, and I felt like really to progress the team at that point, we needed to do some role changes to move on from there. So we experimented. We put Kusta on Jet because obviously his CS background with opping, I'd be, fucking stupid not to try it. Like the kid was so talented. I played against him coming up. I saw him play. He went to like he has always been this phenomenal player. So we did that. We moved Mikhail to Cypher because he was really confident on it or comfortable on it because he used to be a big time Cypher in the early days of the game. And Kusta hated playing Sentinel. I think Kusta is one of the better Sentinels in NA, but he was miserable on it. Made the team atmosphere a little bit bad as well because of that. So I needed to get him off that role. And we started playing for a bit afterwards, and our floor was much better. When we lost, we were only losing 14-10, 12-12, somewhere in that area. And but we weren't as good as our peaks. And so it came down to a point where Danny was like, is this really our best foot forward to go to Iceland? And I said, I wasn't confident enough in that. We didn't have enough time, or people weren't performing well. I think that would have been the best role wise for our roster going forward, but we had to switch back because individuals felt like they were having more success on other agents. And then we went into that tournament. We absolutely ran into the perfect storm that I think we lost to TSM again, fucking shocker, and Cloud9 Blue. And Cloud9 Blue was the perfect storm of stuff. I mean, they had played 16 matches in a row and didn't have a single VOD, including winning an NSG event because they had the game changers going on. So we're coming into that match. They just switched rosters, Leafs on the team, all these things that we have no fucking idea what's going to happen. And it's so obnoxious to me because every game we play is casted, but somehow Cloud9 gets to play 16 matches in a row and doesn't have a single fucking VOD on them of anything they're doing. And of course they came in and they beat us, and they looked really good in the Iceland match, and they did really well. Cloud9's a good team. It happens. Sometimes you lose, and from there we had to make the change because I really felt like we had to make changes in order to be competitive.
Now, first of all, shout out Riot. Please make a demo viewer. Please, 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 please.
I don't even care about that. Good. Just the bias of, I feel like Cloud9 paid people off to not be on stream, man. It's
okay. But you should see it this way. Gen.G, that's gonna be a good match. We'll stream that. Cloud9.
We weren't even playing. That's the problem. All the better teams weren't playing. We had already qualified.
Yeah.
So all these teams are going through. There's not a Gen.G. There's not an XSET. There's not 100 Thieves. Envy. I can keep going on and on and on. That it's are we going to, cast Brimstone Gaming or Cloud9? And they're like, oh, Cloud, whatever. So it almost felt like Cloud9 literally paid them off. And shout out Brimstone Gaming. They broke up, hurt my heart. Those guys are one of the favorites, but yeah. I mean, it was just the perfect storm coming into it. So, all
right. Well, let's talk about the move that was made. Right, Win is benched. Longtime member, obviously since the founding, and then Nature was brought in as his replacement, and that I found interesting. So, talk to us about first of all about what led to Win being the player who went, and then also what you saw in Nature bringing Nature into the team.
I think you saw people start to doubt Jet's abilities and having a one-trick Jet around that time. That we needed somebody. Danny's biggest problem is his consistency. Phenomenal teammate, really good player. And if we wanted to be a top 10 team the whole time, I don't think I have to make that move, but it was brought to me that Gen.G wanted to be a top 3 team, or a top team, and I felt like with his inconsistencies and everything like that, like unfortunately, like I couldn't keep Danny on the team. I needed somebody that was consistently better. I still wanted to move Kusta to Jet because I felt like even in the practice leading up to it, Kusta's opping on the defensive side was phenomenal. It was just his attack side that he wasn't comfortable with, and I felt like that was our best chance moving forward because obviously there is some CS bias coming into that, where you look at some of these players, and the only guy on our team that had any success in CS outside of Kusta was GMD when we worked together on Rogue, early French Canadians when they qualified for the Global Challenge, things like that. But, Danny was always known in CS a bit for being inconsistent as well. One of the best scout players in CSGO. So it translated well when he started playing Jet, and his Jet was good. But I couldn't justify having a player like that wasn't going to perform every single match on a champion like Jet, that if you don't perform or use the character to its max, you're really not getting anything effective out of it. So we went into it. Originally, we were going to kind of look for Jets or duelists, but then our wish list changed to a Sentinel and an IGL. And, the guys that came up was Def. We played very, very well with Def, but we weren't winning scrims as much. And before you get into scrim bucks, whatever, blah, 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 it was more of a, from the outside looking in, we played better with an individual, and we played good with both. But oh my God, Nature was the best player on the fucking planet when we first tried him out. This kid, and he will be a special player coming up. I truly believe that. That this guy, ask any of the guys on our team or any of the people who were scrimming us, he was dropping 30 to 40 day in and day out for the full week we tried him out. And then the conversation came up, like, should we try him out again, should we play with Def again, et cetera, because we had planned to play with Def again. And everyone's comment was, there's no way this kid is this good. And so the GM, Andrew, and I were like, well, if that's our feeling, let's play with him another week. And if he does it again, then you can't be like, oh, he's just, because like everyone's feeling, and Andrew and I both understood. We're like, there's no way this kid can do this every single time, the whole time. Just because like I believe in him to drop like 30 a game or something. But I mean, it was fucking crazy. It was incredible. So we played with him again that week, did the same thing. Maybe not as hot, but still, and our results were really, really good. And so it came down to it. And I felt like if we picked Def up, we needed to make a change for mCe to grab another Sova player with more firepower, or we could pick Nature up and we'd be okay. Because mCe improved day in and day out. The whole time I was there, he was playing really, really well for us. And I wasn't ready to give up on Mike yet as a player. But that was the next person in my head that I was like, he may not be good enough to compete for that top 3 spot. Like, we may have to find somebody else. But he did nothing for me to doubt him enough to make that change, even though it got brought up. That I was like, I'm gonna believe in this kid. And like, he just kept getting better and better. And unfortunately, at the end, it didn't work out. He kind of let me down a bit, but I made the right choice then. I'll say it now, even though I got fired and I'm salty about it, and that's part of it, but I made the right choice and I can live with that. So.
Okay. Let's talk about the roster going forward, right? Obviously, you've talked about, some of the things you were thinking about, potential changes that could come through, Nature being brought in, Nature being a potential future star. What do you think the biggest challenges are in the next step for this team? Like, obviously, you're not part of it anymore. What do you think their next challenges are going to be?
Mental. I think mental is always such a big part of it, that we at the end struggle to bring our confidence and things like that from practice into matches. That in practice leading up the whole time, we were really good. If the meta didn't change, I was confident like we would be at Berlin. Before the meta change, we were actually just fucking incredible. And when the meta changed, there was kind of this shift in the team that like people were kind of disappointed because we were so good in practices before. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board. We went to California, we boot camped, we had laid up all these things, and then Riot was like, ha, fucking psych. And we had to, start over on some different things. We had to change agent compositions because the utility change didn't make sense to us anymore to play certain characters and things. We were playing a lot of Breach, and our Breach was really good because GMG is a monster. And we had to go away from all of that and basically start over. And it took us a little while, and we got back, and I felt like we were really in a groove, like I said. But it's just the mental thing, and whether that was part of me, the pressure that was put on me, and my attitude on things, or just guys being nervous. I'm not sure what it was, but just every now and then people would go missing in matches, and it wasn't even just one person all the time. It was everybody had their moments that there were times like the Rise game and even the Envy game when we lost that I felt like people didn't show up to play. Like it was just such a weird feeling as compared to what I knew the guys were capable of, that it was incredibly frustrating. But I think they have to solve that first and foremost. I think they have to make player moves as well to truly compete, and that's what I thought our next move was going to be. And then all of a sudden I got a meeting and they're like, oh, never mind, like, bye, basically. So that it is frustrating to say the least. I do not think I was the biggest issue on that team. I think I should have been given more time to do certain things, because anybody that was watching what I watched would have been confident in what we were doing, honestly. And just it didn't work out, and that's unfortunate. So,
well,
Mike,
speaking
if I
about,
may.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just talking about like cutting and getting cut and whatever. So I'm the kind of person who struggles to upset anyone ever. So how do you kind of like, does it often happen where you cut someone and the relationship goes sour? Like, how do you approach that conversation? How do you say to them, you're good, you're just not good enough, and maintain
yeah,
good relations?
the biggest thing was because the only player we cut was Huen or Danny, and I really liked Danny. Just they cut him, and it was like it was my decision, obviously, but I didn't handle the cutting, and I told our GM, I was like, if possible, and Danny's okay with it, I would really like to talk to Danny about why this happened, et cetera, et cetera. So I had that meeting with Danny that I didn't have to do, and I basically laid it out for him, and it was really hard because obviously he's upset, and it's probably easier to just cut somebody and be done with it. But I was raised differently, and like I think that's bullshit, to be honest. Like I've done it in the past, and I regret things I've handled in the past, but I wanted Danny to know that like he's a good player. I knew he was going to find success in other areas. Just I don't think he was a top level player, and I hope he proves me wrong and he gets to that point. But at the end of the day, it's a business. I mean, it's a job. You have to handle it. Like I know it when Andrew cut me, I could tell he was going to cut me by the first sentence he said because his voice was shaky or not confident. I just told him, I was like, Andrew, listen, like we're good. Like you don't have to, like we're done. Like I'm gonna make this easy for you or whatever. But at the end of the day, it is a business. Like you have to do these things, and whether I like it or not, part of the job of being a coach, and the hardest part, in my opinion, is I have to befriend people over and over and over again. I have to put my faith in them, believe in them, help them progress, and then I have to be that person that it's like you're not good enough, and that is by far the shittiest part of the job, and it takes a toll on your mental because I will never not put faith in certain players that I believe in, and although it cost me in the end this time, like I still believe I made the right choice to put my faith in people that ultimately I shouldn't have, but that's part of it. Like it sucks, but you have to be a leader in terms of a lot of things. And if I'm going to cut somebody, I'm going to do it, the way that should be done, where I'm going to be enough of a man to talk to the person. And if they have questions, I want to answer them, et cetera, et cetera. So like it sucks, and it's never easy, especially, most of the time there's a lot of emotions and stuff involved. So you kind of have to talk a guy down off a cliff of basically when it happens that it's like, I will always, help those people if I can, but they, it's tough. There's no easy way around it in terms of cutting people or anything like that in this segment. But I try to be a person first and coach second. So
Yeah, I mean, shout outs to Papa mCe, who I'm pretty sure is in Twitch chat right now for the race different comment. Good job there, Papa mCe. And Mr. Steve Elmore, big fan. So now here's the question that obviously a lot of us are curious about. I know we've chatted a little bit about it. Do you at this point have any idea what your next step is in the scene?
I have no idea what my next step is. I think honestly there's interesting things in the works, but as of right now, it's like I'm trying to focus on myself and doing things in my actual life. That it's been nice having a life the last 2 weeks. You forget how much time you put into work and things like that. That it's been great, getting to hang out with people or go do stuff and have multiple days in a row to myself. So that's been nice. Obviously, I want to get back into it. I'm not done. Like, I truly believe no matter who you are, I can make you better. And that has always been my goal. Like, in the end, I don't care.
Bronze?
Probably, hopefully, but it's like, yeah, my focus is not.
Aha! I'm back. Sorry, I'm gonna take this for a second. Hopefully
Okay.
that. Oh, was it not just my internet?
Yeah.
I just broke
Yeah,
it.
I think everything went down. I can't hear Sam. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is you can't ever focus on winning as a coach, and I know that sounds weird, but you have to focus on getting better, and I truly believe that because if you improve, you will win eventually. Or not everyone can be the best in the world, and I'm not saying the Gen.G guys can't, but you have to accept that, but try to move past it. You can be a bad player and achieve great things. I mean, fucking look at my whole career. But I would rather people with a C level talent end up in a B level than people with an A level talent ended up in a C level. That's just unacceptable.
Oh. So we might have just missed the beginning of that question. Sam, what was the question that you asked?
My question about like cutting people?
Oh, okay, never mind. That was we were talking about where you would wind up then, I think was where
Yes,
we were at when the
yes,
internet dipped down.
yes,
It's a little bit
that was
confused
the
by it.
question.
I will ask the one slightly more direct question. Obviously, you're wearing a certain shirt right now. A lot of your former team members have joined together in a certain team right now. 3 of them rebuilding a roster that I know when you all started to make the transition to Valorant, you wanted to get an org to pick the 5 up, or at least as many as were
4.
willing to make
Yep.
the switch. What was it? Marky wasn't coming over.
No, Leaf had already signed to Cloud9 at the time.
Right. Okay, so you're trying to get someone to pick up the
Groundwork.
4. No org bit on that because orgs are dumb. But yeah, that's right. I'm calling out every GM here. But the shards are being reborn, man. It's coming together. Do you want to? Is that a possibility?
Probably not. Fuck Vanity. Shit player. So.
Oh wow.
He is in chat, so that's perfect. There's the sound
That's
bite.
amazing.
Flip it.
They have a really good coaching staff already, honestly. That you have James and Autumn, and if anything ever came up, I would, take a place at one of those guys' side as an assistant coach in a heartbeat, because I believe in both those guys. Obviously, they do a lot of work, and like if something ever came up and Cloud9 was like, "Yo, Matt, we're gonna send you a shirt to sit on a stream and potentially join our team," would I do it? Absolutely. But that's yet to be seen, so we just have to wait to see what happens.
All right, Jack, you heard it here. Sign this man. And everyone else is looking for something. So let's talk about a little bit more of an esoteric thing. I know when we first started getting involved in coaching in Valorant, the early days of Gen.G, one of the things that you're really excited about was that you really felt like people were using utility wrong in your view, like that there were other applications for utilities and things that people just hadn't started trying yet, and to your eyes there were a lot of things that could be done to change up? I know Sova in particular, just the use of different pieces of utility there was something that you messed around with early on. So I guess my question is, how do you feel about it now? Do you think that that sort of agent kits are being maximized? Do you think that we're going to have things continue to be changed around?
I think it is become drastically better from when I first started in terms of people are thinking through flashes more or setups. You're starting to see sentinels roam more back and forth across the map. You're seeing these triple initiator comps, or you saw the double smokes come out for a lot of stuff for a while, that I think people are starting to use utility much better. You've got these Sova guys that are coming up like Derek and Levi and all these guys that were, Odin abusers and scum of the earth. Fix the walls on Ascent. But, these guys
the
have such
reverb
unique
on that.
takes. And even the TSM Academy, as you'll call them now, the way those guys played, was different from a lot of other teams. The way they utilize Sage and Astra, and they're doing really well, a lot of these teams, and I think they're pushing the top teams more and more to become better with utility. And you saw V1 came up and they pretty much pioneered the post plant meta. Like, that wasn't ever done, that was available, and you start to see these guys do things. So yeah, I think utility is definitely a lot better than what it was when I first got here, and I'm happy to see the game progress the way it has, and hopefully it keeps progressing. And people are less stubborn about agents they play or the characters they pick, because one of the best metas in the game we may not even be aware of. I mean, Europe didn't play Astra,
yeah. It's that aspect is pretty wild. And then I think, Sam, you had some. Thank you so much for indulging my interviewer brain here, and being patient with me here, Sam. But I think you got a couple questions here on the tail end.
Yeah, just about 10 minutes left though, so I'm happy to just kind of skip them because we've still got
I guess we should.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna blitz through the rest of this broadcast. Thank you. This interview's been great. We'll talk about some other stuff and get Matt's opinions on those as well, but I guess we should just blow through the other topics here. So let's talk about some stuff that's happened. VCT Challengers playoffs happened. I'm even gonna vote that we have a recap video. Can we skip the recap video? I think we're going to skip the recap video because we have so little time left to work through. So
we play it at the end, possibly.
We'll play it at the end. We'll play it as a nice outro. So we've got our representatives. It's Sentinels, 100 Thieves, and Envy. This is the bracket as it actually turned out. We're going to look at our pick'ems real quick after this. But I guess my question is, how do we feel about these teams as NA's reps? I'm personally feeling pretty good about them. Sam, how do you feel about these three?
I think I got 2 out of 3, if I'm not mistaken, of my predictions. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm glad to see 100 Thieves. They've been up and down, a little wonky here and there from time to time, but they've kind of cemented themselves. Even took a map of Sentinels, big pog there. And Envy as well, another team that's kind of had their up and downs, but now they've kind of blazed their way through. Hopefully they continue to perform. Hopefully I'm rooting for EU. But for NA's sake, hopefully they continue to blaze.
I still don't know why you're rooting for EU.
Sam.
Yeah, you don't live there anymore. Come to the better side. There's no South
African. When I
African
get there,
team
I will root for you. South Africa's not allowed to compete in VCT. Just fun fact.
And that's a bummer.
Yeah,
these are a bummer. Anyway,
in my opinion, 3. As long as Exet, Envy, 100 Thieves, or Sentinels made it, I would have been really pleased with this outcome. I think those are the top 4 teams, especially right now, to represent us. And in my opinion, the top 3 teams made it. These were the 3 guys I picked, and I wanted to make it through because it's going to give us the best representation in NA for this tournament. And I'm very interested to see how everybody stacks up, because everyone praises Sentinels, and Sentinels is great, but man, these teams are good. And I'm looking forward to see how they play.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like sort of this bracket played out to the favorites. Like, we really didn't have any substantial upsets really anywhere in the bracket that I can think of. Like, the only one that could even really maybe be argued is Rise beating TSM, but even then that's kind of a toss-up. So there really were no upsets, which feels insane for a tournament. But let's go ahead and check out our pick'em. Speaking of trying to predict upsets, I may have messed up in that regard. I'm just gonna blitz through these. We'll see how wrong they were. Look, my upper bracket was not bad. Had a little too much faith in Xset, had a little too much faith in Luminosity. I don't know why. I just had this hunch that Luminosity was going to go on a run. They really did not. So we can just I fucked up. We can just move on from this one. Let's look at Sam's. Let's look at someone else. Sam, how'd you do?
Look at that. 2 out
good.
of 3 ain't bad. I had no faith in 100 Thieves. Goddamn.
You still like your Overwatch crew way too much, but otherwise this is pretty good.
I really do. Yeah.
And then Matt, the expert here, that's a pretty damn good bracket.
Ow.
Damn.
I made the comment that I don't know if I typed it in here, that I felt like whoever won out of Sentinels and Envy would run it back through lower and win the tournament. So
Yeah.
that's whether, but you know, Envy lost to 100 Thieves obviously at the end, but obviously picking Sentinels to lose to Envy, yeah, I knew both those teams would be in, was my feeling. And I felt like this was the time that Envy would finally show up, and like obviously Sentinels is notorious for only liking lower brackets. So I figured
Yes.
that's where they would bow out and then run it back through lower, and then beat. You can't see it, but I had Sentinels beating Envy in the finals to win the tournament.
Yeah.
But I had the
I mean,
top three right.
Yeah,
So-
your bracket was really
Yeah.
good. I fell into the same trap where I was like, Sentinels is going to make a lower bracket run. They'll lose to Xset in the upper final. And then, a classic.
I like the Xset guys, and I think they're damn good, but I just
Yeah.
don't feel like they're better than those three teams.
Yeah.
They are so close though, and I honestly they typically struggle once it gets to the bracket play, anyways. So props to them. They really showed up. Like they look fucking great. Def has done God's work with that team. I have a lot of respect for those guys.
It's top 4, certainly not bad. Just missing out on the trip. Very good position going into the last chance qualifier. Let's move on to EMEA, because again, we are on light speed here because that interview was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't mad about that.
EMEA
I'll tell
is
you what.
wild.
But unfortunately, folks, we can't really go over our time slot because there is Summer Champs broadcast today, so we are going to move on in. EMEA, I will once again say, actually, I didn't get to say it last week because we didn't have a show. This format is stupid and dumb. just make it a straight bracket, man. I don't understand why we had to do this format. This event started one day after NA. It will end 8 days later than NA. If that doesn't tell you that this is a weird bracket, I don't know what will. Ascend and Supermassive Blaze have qualified. Ascend, I think, was very much to expectations. Supermassive Blaze, not. Holy cow. What do we make of that one, Sam?
Okay, that depends on how much you know about the Turkish super team. Like,
Oh, wow,
that is
we
what
got
they're
an
known
EU
as, the
expert.
Turkish super team. Well, okay, come on. No, but
us with it.
for real,
Hit us
these
with it.
guys have been on various different teams and have been performing out of their minds. They've got players like Pora. There was a point, I kid you not, there was a point where I sat around with a bunch of other coaches during Ignition series and we watched this guy. We're like, is he hacking? Is he how does he know? No, he's not hacking. He's just that good. It's like CNED on Ascend. He was a player during Ignition series who absolutely dominated, but he never found himself on a team that would do particularly well, or very seldom. Now he's finally found himself on a team that he gels really well with, and he's destroying everyone. I know that everyone is super excited to see Ascend versus Sentinels, particularly specifically because of CNED. So Supermassive Blaze, it's a similar thing. And of course, they got Tanny coming in to coach as well, who's worked with a lot of those players in the past before they got picked up onto this super team. What I will say is that it's really great to see Turkey, because in the last one, Turkey and Russia, they let everyone down in the last playoffs. So they're kind of making up for that now, and in a really dominant fashion.
Yeah, I think my trepidation with Supermassive Blaze was just how flat Turkey fell last time there was international competition. But we'll keep sliding on here. We had pick'ems. I'm not going to bother with those, but I will say there was one comment from Matt that he put in our outline. I'm not going to show the outline, but this comment from Matt just made me laugh so much. It was, Ascend is the only team that matters. That was correct. And then the second one is, and FPX finally won't shirk. Ooh,
And
nope.
I was mistaken.
Oh, out
I
lower.
will no longer be a fan of the team that is going to only give up 3 rounds to NA teams if NA teams win pistol. So FPX, you have lost a fan.
Good old Angel. That was such a cocky quote.
Still doing well.
I mean, he'll never be proven wrong because they'll never get to an international competition. It seems. So
Holy cow!
he'll just eternally
Can't
be right.
lose the NA if you never make it. Am I right?
Yeah. So, anyways, the teams that are eliminated, we do need to blow through this real quick. Is Oxygen, FPX, Fireflux, and Navi. I think FPX is the big surprise there. I think Navi people had hopes for, but they were a team that you were looking at to be an upset team, and they did upset Team Liquid in the first round, which is sick. And it's really weird that you can win the first round of the upper and then lose the first round of the lower. That's not how that should work. This format is dumb. I'll say that one more time. Now let's move on from the EMEA because we got to talk about Summer Champs. We don't have that much time to do it. So let's talk about Summer Champs. It's finally happening. There's 32 teams in Summer Champs. We've got 8 brackets to run through here real quick. We've been building this for so damn long. So we're going to lightning round this. You're going to look at this bracket. You're going to tell me who to make it through. I'm going to start on this one. Renegades Virtuoso. Yeah, very easy. There we go. All right, on to Group B, lightning round. Predictions here. This one's a little trickier. I'm gonna go Devise Immortals. Squirrel Squad. Okay. Devise Immortals. Okay. All right, moving on. Easy 5 and Ghost.
Ooh,
hit me with
Easy
it.
5 Dark Zero.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Easy 5 and Dark Zero as well.
Okay, moving on. Lightning rounding this. Who the hell are the green bees?
Complexity BBG.
Complexity BBG. I think it's got to be. Matt, you got any insight here?
Green Beans, Project 13.
Hell yeah. Pick the underdogs. All right, moving on.
That is a hot take.
Ooh, Ryzen Knights is what I'm going for. Ukers are good, though.
Yeah.
Ukers were good. What are you going for? Rise Knights?
Rise Knights.
Yeah. All right,
Easily.
moving on.
Not
We're almost through this. To be determined. Gonna crush
TBD.
Cloud9 Blue. Gonna get wrecked. TBD. Doesn't take no prisoners. No, obviously Cloud9 soar.
I can't comment
I
on the first
want to vote
match.
Leeds.
Yeah, you can't comment on the first match? You can't comment on a match you're
I
coaching?
can't pick my own team. I'm going to pick Soar, though, on the other side.
Oh.
All right, sweet. And
I was kind of hoping Leeds would come out on, but yeah, the VC9 and so.
Moving on. Andbox. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go Teal Seam. Teal Seam Pioneers. That's what I'm going to say.
Really?
Yeah.
Teal seems
I'm going to go
pretty
Andbox
solid.
Pioneers because
I think
I'm
Andbox
going
is gonna be-
Andbox
solid.
Pioneers as well. Seal T.
I think Andbox is going to be lost in the post-EA. All right. Do we have one more? Nope. Yeah, we do have one more. All right. This one's a tricky one. I want to say YFP NRG. What do you think? I am curious. Yeah, sure, absolutely. One can make it through winners, one can make it through losers. I am very curious to get your take on Evil Geniuses here, Matt, if you got a second, since I feel like that's a team that's been off talked about. Just real quick. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Who's gonna make it through? We'll just lightning round it.
They have some great players and a complete liability. But I think EG and Energy should make it through. YFB without Oaken, I've lost all faith.
Okay. Sam, what do you feel?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go NRG Evil Geniuses, to be honest.
All right. I'm gonna stick with YFP NRG. I don't know if it's gonna be right, but that's what I'm going for. Although I would love to see
I trust in foe.
Old Temperature to make it through. All right, so it's crazy to me that like all of the biggest names came through the last chance qualifier because it's literally like I think they were finally allowed to play in these games based on VCT placements. Is I think probably what happened there. Not 100% sure.
Probably
Do you have any insight on that, Matt?
We qualified the first one. We didn't qualify the second, and I don't think it's weird how it works because we were gonna play in one of the tournaments because I was like, we have to get match experience. Like, there's just no way. Like, we can't afford not to get some. And we would have won that tournament and 13-2'd everybody. We were that good. And that's the day that Riot announced the meta change. And so we were like, instantly, we were like, we have to cancel. Our time is better spent in practice on the new patch. So we dropped out of that tournament.
Big bummer.
But hopefully, I think teams now will actually start playing in a lot of these when they're allowed to. Is the big thing.
Hell yeah. I do also want to plug, if you want to get more insight on the Summer Champs, which is obviously going live very shortly, there's a phenomenal article out on nerdstreet.com from, I think Mitch Reams was writing that. I know I got the draft of it last night. It has been published now. It's a little bit of it's like a paragraph on every team that's in the Summer Champs. And in a 32-team tournament like this, where obviously there's names you know, but there's a lot of names you might not know, that is a great resource. So head on over to nerdstreet.com, go to the news section, grab that article, check out the little blurb on each one. I think Sam might have frozen. So this might be a good chance for us to wrap up this show. Matt, thank you so much for coming on, agreeing to come on after the delay last week, after the cancellation last week. This was a great interview. Very grateful to have you on the show. Everyone, go follow him at Matthew C. Elmore. It is his name. Follow him on Twitter to figure out where he goes next. I can't wait to see where you end up, Matt.
Me too.
That is going to wrap up our show. Nice Frozen Sam to send us off into the sunset. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Tune in to Press Forward to Defuse every week at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whatever it is in Eastern right now. Watch Summer Champs. It's coming up right after this. It's not going to be long now, so be sure to watch Summer Champs. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Is going to slip around the back. This could actually cut Spade's offense into two. And actually, it's going to Spade's been gained. Neptune going to stick on it. On receiver coming out. Ken wants to peek through it. And he finds himself two. One more available. Able to still dismiss on the backside of the Hunter's Spear.
Four of them still already going back. They're ready for this hold. Out goes Ye. Gonna be able to get one, but it's a firing range for Ye once again. Is he gonna be the sole entry on this site? Ye got another. Farming in this map thus far, and it's another pistol round where he's able to farm up eco frags, make it an ace for Ye.
Nebula's not perfect, so an opportunity for Corey to sneak not just one, but two responses. And two more as well. The headshots present themselves.
Cyber Cage there instead. He gets the very first kill walking in. Pure with him as well, and two for Pure. 3, 4. Almost all of them.
With a little bit of utility as well, but I doubt we're going to see any of that thrown out here. Just trying to survive. Hey, okay.
He's going to play contact, but the Godburst is actually going to give it away, Aaron. Wonderful. He's going to get the timing. It's going to get the timing. Invested at this point. Finished. If they can, just another couple of kills. This feels like an excellent situation for Sentinels as they're looking for more. It'll block off defender spawn on site. You've also got Hiko, who's going to be working in from garage to clear out backside. So far, so good. The Dappers require a Herculean effort just to equalize things.
With the Seekers to tell Ethan everything is try to challenge this with the off angle. The peaks are perfect from Ethan. You cannot ult him. Mark's coming through and Crashes is in a 1 versus 3. I don't know how many options Crashes has here.
Oh, Crashes!
Might be in some trouble there. He's gonna get swarmed. Oh, nice shot from Ethan. Backside Ye is doing great damage though. Such a good support. And he's gonna bring out the Blaze-Storm. He's under a lot of pressure. 2 places to look. Oh, there we go! Straight through the TP. Everybody's in a party for 100 Thieves, and they are destroying this effort from Sentinels.
Stuff from Asuna.
Yeah, Jet Diff coming through here. Absolutely insane stuff from Asuna. You know, good support coming through from Hiko as well right at the end here. Oh, and he's like protected by the screen there as all the updraft.
But they just get almost skill dipped, right? Like, the guy peeks out spawn and wins a 1v1 against Nitro offing. Sick.
Go. Being spotted now as well. Trying to get some extra. Oh no! No!
No!